Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start my presentation, which is about raising critical thinking competency through project-based learning instruction. So before I start my presentation, I would like to spare a minute to identify my motivation towards my presentation or my participation in this conference, and also what motivated me to choose this topic. Generally, I've never been familiar with critical thinking as a subject. My attention on higher order thinking skills in general, along with directed thinking, non-directed thinking, metacognition, judgmental thinking. Those are included within the frame of critical thinking. So as far as I'm concerned with the theoretical part, I would like to start with a background and introduction to the study. For the background, critical thinking, between critical thinking, elements of thought, and higher order thinking skills. So generally, in today's drastic changing world and society, thinking needs to be more adaptable and sensitive to divergent perspective to individuals in order to make a reasonable judgments on moral and social. It can be a competency which can allow learners to reflect on their own learning, draw personal knowledge and intuitions, ask questions, and challenge assumptions and perceptions. And as thoughts includes directed thinking, non-directed thinking, and metacognition, the elements of thoughts may include verbs, information, questions, assumptions, opinions, inferences, etc. So these elements of thoughts can be developed through higher order thinking skills such as analyzing, synthesizing, evaluating, which are critical thinking skills. So critical thinking in general is an attitude of being disposed to various problems in someone's real life experiences. And in the classroom, it can be viewed as a pedagogical process which can facilitate more complex cognitive abilities. Therefore, the integration of higher order thinking skills and elements of thought can support the lifelong task of thinking by promoting the best attitudes of students, their decisions, their attitudes, and their skills in the classroom. So as an introduction to the study, I shall claim that in traditional educational classrooms, teachers were emphasizing the grammar translation method and the audiolingual method to help students to be critical thinkers. Instead, they were not emphasizing on questioning, role play activities, cooperative learning, which are essential for developing critical thinking among students. So nowadays, in the ELT classroom, teachers may struggle to engage students in critical thinking activities, as students often use critical thinking skills to solve real-life problems. So students need to be exposed to diverse teaching methods which can enhance the critical thinking process through promoting critical thinking. So students must be exposed to ambiguity and various interpretations of a situation or a problem in order to stimulate their growth and raise cognitive skills. Also, to achieve long life learning through particular teaching strategies in order to ensure inclusive interaction in the classroom, through which the learner can voice their opinion and at the same time hear the opinion of the others. So for this study, project-based learning is a learner-centered teaching approach or a learner-centered way of teaching, which is based on constructivist principles. Among those constructivist principles are learning is a context-based, learners are involved actively in the learning process, and learners can achieve their learning goals through social interaction and through sharing knowledge and exchanging ideas. As project-based learning can be a type of inquiry-based learning where the context of learning is provided through authentic problems and questions within real-world practice. So this study is contextualized within the frame of social constructivism. So critical thinking can be a social practice, as we are all aware that the individual cognitive development of learners or individuals is deeply related to the social and cultural aspects of the learning process. Therefore, the development of critical thinking can be a process influenced by the interaction between the learner, the context of learning, and the cultural aspects of his community or the culture of his society. So the significance of this interaction on the individual's development is deeply related to the idea of collaborative learning, as critical thinking develops from cognitive ability and cognitive activity. It can be also promoted through social interaction. How can this occur? This can occur through engaging in conversations, in discussions, in debates, and structured interactive activities, structured group activities, and project-based learning, through which the learner can support his claim, support their opinion through making judgments and critical thinking. As we are all aware that critical thinking or thinking in general is about being actively engaged in the process of thought as students attempt to interpret, analyze, and evaluate information. They can also analyze assumptions regarding to that information. As we are aware that EFL teachers usually prefer to borrow Bloom's taxonomy 1956, cognitive skills, along with knowledge, application, comprehension, and evaluation, analysis, synthesis, which are critical thinking skills which can allow learners make reasoning, make judgments, and make inferences. So for the aim of the study, we would like to diagnose the significance of fostering EFL students to be critical thinkers within inclusive interaction in the classroom and through project-based learning instruction tools and methods of teaching. As also, the research seeks to portray critical thinking as a social practice and look for possible teaching strategies which can be used to guarantee the achievement of critical thinking of students in the ELT classroom. So for the questions of the study, we tend to, or we seek answer to the question of to what extent can the level of critical thinking of students be affected by the integration of project-based learning activities and strategy in the classroom, along with discussions, debates, project-based learning, questioning techniques, peer questioning, role-play techniques, interactive activities, etc. As we can hypothesize that students can be exposed to project-based learning activities like group work, peer questioning, interactive activities to reflect on their own learning, be self-guided learners, and have ownership of learning. So for the methodology of the study, to validate the suggested hypothesis, a research work has been undertaken at ENS of Laghouat with second-year students who represent the whole population of the study, which is 60 students, and only 32 students who participated or intervened in the study. As the study consists of the theoretical work and the field work, the theoretical work of the study involves the incorporation of two research variables, which are critical thinking competency and project-based learning instruction. So critical thinking competency can be the main focus of the study, for we tend to classify these variables and measure them through an ordinal scale of measurement to see the impact of one variable on the other or test their causal relationship. While the field work of the study involves identifying the problem of the research, building appropriate design method to approach it, and we have chosen practical tools based on the availability of the research population because it is few, and also the level of difficulty of the research problem, which suits all the students' level. Besides, the findings of the study are interpreted and analyzed through inductive analysis due to the use of qualitative tools, which is observation, the observation tool, and we tended to interpret them quantitatively. So for the discussion of the findings, first, for the rationale of the observation tool is to assess and measure students' ability to make reasoning, make inferences, make judgments, and think critically through group work, through peer questioning, through role-play activities, through debating and interaction during 4 sessions, which have been provided for the students along with the observation or the use of the observation. Now, the scores of the students' level of thinking or critical thinking reveals that the average percentage is 91.5%, which is equivalent to 4.57, which is less than 5 as the average session score. So based on these findings, we can claim that the level of students' critical thinking competency increased when they are familiarized with project-based learning instruction and cooperative learning strategies, instead of familiarizing students with audiolingual method or grammar translation method, through which they can only interact through dialogues, through memorization, through translation of the text from their mother tongue to the target language. Now, for the recommendations and concluding notes, we can conclude that encouraging students to use project-based learning activities and strategies may provide them with insights of others to exchange ideas or to think critically through exchanging ideas, through asking questions for clarification, through giving arguments with evidence, as project-based learning instruction encourages the use of authentic assessment, which measures students' performance via rubrics, as it also focuses on self-reflection and peer assessment. This can help students acquire ownership of the learning process, be autonomous learners, be self-regulated learners and self-guided learners, which is the main aim of teachers today, which is to achieve independent learning, to have full responsibility of learning through using democratic principles, which are all under the umbrella of the constructivist approach, and more specifically the social constructivist approach. Finally, I would like to thank you for your attention, as your questions and feedback are welcome.